All right, you all are live.
Okay, good morning. I'm Brian Husky. I'm the city staff liaison to the Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. And we have a couple of things we got to do sort of as technicalities this morning that I consulted with the city's legal team on how to address. At this particular point, however, we do not have a quorum to do this. So if it's acceptable to everyone, I think that uh, maybe what we could go ahead and do that doesn't require a vote at this point is try to go ahead and recognize Meredith for everything that she has done for this committee and for this community over several years now, and at Homeward Bound and in other capacities. And just this is her last day working at Homeward Bound of Western North Carolina. She's been there through just an exceptionally strange period in the world. And today is also going to be her last day as a member of this committee. And for this occasion, we have prepared a proclamation to recognize you for your efforts and everything that you have done. And I want to thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Randy Stout, who has agreed to read the proclamation that has been drafted to recognize you. You're on mute, Randy. It's going to be really important for us to hear you.
Thank you. Proclamation to recognize Meredith Schweitzer for her leadership in the community efforts to end homelessness. Whereas Meredith Schweitzer has steadfastly served as both the executive director of Homeward Bound of Western North Carolina and as a member of Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee, and whereas Ms. Schweitzer tenure as executive director of Homeward Bound of Western North Carolina included leading the organization during a worldwide pandemic that produced multiple risks and challenges for people experiencing homelessness and agencies serving them. And whereas Homeward Bound of Western North Carolina accepted assignments above and beyond the scope of their organizational mission and continue to faithfully provide services to people experiencing homelessness during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas under Ms. Schweitzer's leadership, Homeward Bound of Western North Carolina completed renovations to improve its service at its A Hope Day Center and has led the creation of 85 units to be dedicated as permanent supportive housing for our community's most vulnerable, chronically homeless adults. And whereas Ms. Schweitzer's service and dedication to the community goal of ending homelessness have consistently aligned with the purposes and guiding principles of the Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. Therefore, be it resolved by the NC-501 Asheville Buncombe Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee that this committee and the entire community recognize Ms. Schweitzer's tireless leadership and express gratitude for all her good works in Asheville and Buncombe County to end homelessness. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your very thoughtful words, and I appreciate it's been a privilege to serve on this committee and to get to partner with all of you in this mission. And thank you for the opportunity, and thank you again for your very thoughtful remarks.
Thank you, Meredith. We are still short a quorum. I think when Amy Hobson gets here, we'll be okay. So we have some reports that aren't going to require any particular action. And so I suggest that we go ahead and proceed with those particular reports, if that's agreeable with everybody. Okay. So Jen, I'm gonna pass it on to you then, because you're the first one of those reports. So.
Okay, great. Thanks. And good morning, everybody. Brian had asked if I could just give a quick update about kind of the county's process under the American Rescue Plan. And what I had shared with him was I feel like the county is really attempting to be very transparent about their process. And he had shared the link in the emails as well. And so would encourage you all to take a few minutes to look at the county's website. The deadline to apply was on July 15th. And the way that the county is like evaluating the applications are different staff members throughout the county have volunteered to review them, and they're taking them in sections. At this time, it has not been shared how many applications they received or for the total cost that I'm aware of. However, Rachel Nygaard, who is helping to facilitate this process, did reach out to me when she saw this on the agenda and had suggested, thought it was really important for me to share that the next date for people to be aware of is August 3rd. So that would be next Tuesday. And that's when commissioners will have a workshop focused on the local fiscal recovery funds. And that's going to be at 3:00. And then also on that date, they will be considering a $2 million investment in Homeward Bound's purchase of the Days Inn property. And then again, any additional information I think is available on the website. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any right now, but that's kind of just a larger overview. And as soon as the commissioners do make recommendations or receive the recommendations made from the staff based on the evaluations, that information will be shared and available as well.
Thank you, Jen. So Sarah, to your question, I think that 855, I think that's the city's something for the city, but Amy Hobson, are you here now?
I am. I apologize for being late. I emailed you, Brian.
Yeah, I saw that. So, we have a quorum of members present now. So, I think I'll do just a roll call vote to confirm, and then we've got that little piece of business to take care of to make Sarah the official pro tem chair for today. So, Sarah, you're here. Jason Desai let me know he would not be available today. Elvia Diaz. Amy Hobson, present.
Yes.
Tamia Jones. Eileen, our chair, is obviously not present. David Nash. Tim McElroy.
Here.
And Ben, you're here as Parker's proxy.
I'm here.
All right. Joel Steininger. Randy Stout.
Here.
Meredith Schweitzer.
Here.
And Jennifer Teague.
Here.
Okay, so we are official now. So in Eileen's absence and with Parker not available today, I was advised by city legal that we were customarily, it's okay to appoint a chair pro tem for a specific meeting in the absence of a chair and vice chair. I've reached out to Sarah, who agreed to stand for this position. So all we need is a motion and a second to approve her as the pro tem chair for this meeting today. And then I'll do a roll call vote and I'll turn it over to Sarah.
So moved.
I second.
Okay. Sarah, I guess I don't think you can vote on this particular.
I can. I actually did look that up.
Amy Hobson, yay or nay?
Yay.
Tim Mackel, yay. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Ben for Parker.
Yay.
Randy, yay or nay?
Yay.
Meredith Schweitzer
Yay.
and Jennifer T.
Yay.
Great. Sarah, it's all yours from here. Thank y'all, everybody.
Great. Thanks for letting me fill in for Eileen and Parker. So the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda approval from our May 28th, 2021 meeting minutes that you would have received from Brian's email. Do we have any comments, questions at this time about the meeting minutes? No? Okay, we need to vote on approving that. So I'll go through the roll call once again, right?
Yeah, we just need a motion and a second to do so.
Great. Can I get a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, Amy?
Before you proceed, Sarah, would you mind reviewing the script real quick, just so the public is informed of
Definitely.
the access information, please?
Yes. We do have the option for public to listen live by phone. We do have the opportunity for public comment during the period specified on the meeting agenda, which is towards the end. Use the toll-free number of 855-925-2801. Again, 855-925-2801. Enter code 9386. And you can either leave a voice message by pressing star, then the number 2, or you can request to speak live by pressing star, then the number 3. If you choose this option, you will continue to hear the meeting audio until it is your turn to speak. Each person making public comment will have 3 minutes to do so. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. Great.
So we do have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. I'll run through the roll here. Sarah?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ben sitting in for Parker?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
And Jen?
Aye.
All right. Well, we've jumped around a little bit here, so all
We
good.
did. So we already covered our 5th agenda item, the Buncombe County American Rescue Plan Fund update. Did anyone have any questions while we still have Jennifer with us from that agenda item? No, okay. Moving on to our 6th meeting agenda item, emergency housing vouchers. We're going to hear from Emily Ball.
Hey, y'all. Good morning. Emergency housing vouchers. This is a really exciting opportunity for our community to house some additional people who are currently homeless. Emergency housing vouchers are part of the American Rescue Plan. They're one of the ways that that plan is supporting folks who are homeless. And the emergency housing vouchers are 47 additional tenant-based vouchers that have been allocated to the Housing Authority. Part of the regulatory requirement around that for the Housing Authority, for any housing authority, is to partner with the continuum of care for those vouchers, which are dedicated to people who are homeless. Those vouchers also have to be routed through coordinated entry, and all of that, part of the HUD requirement is that all of that is outlined in a memorandum of understanding between the Housing Authority and the continuum of care. So under that, we have, because of the coordinated entry requirement in particular, we have worked with our coordinated entry work group to identify the target populations to prioritize for that opportunity, and the service providers to help facilitate access and help people find those units and help people stabilize in those units. So The staff report that you have and resolution are recommendations from that work group and from staff. What we landed on is prioritizing people who are chronically homeless, as well as larger families with domestic violence in their backgrounds. And we have identified particular service provider partners to help facilitate that. So those are ABCCM, ELIDA, Helpmate, and Homeward Bound. And we've allocated particular number of vouchers to each of those partners, but are including the ability to flex those allocations if we need to. If, someone's having a difficult time getting theirs leased up, somebody else has higher demand and has the capacity to take on more, then we can shift some of those numbers around. And again, the service provider's role in that is really walking clients through the process, helping them gather all the documentation they need, applying for the voucher, getting to the orientation with HACA, doing that housing search, landlord recruitment, and then providing supportive services for the first year that people are in housing to get through that recertification period. So this is a great opportunity again for our community. Exciting to have 47 new vouchers that are dedicated to our population. Obviously really dependent on having landlords at the table to make this possible, but there are some incentives included that the Housing Authority will facilitate. So there's a lease up bonus for landlords that agree to take a voucher. There's some funding to do repairs if they need that to get the unit to meet the housing inspection, and also some funding to cover any damage costs. So again, the staff report and resolution that you have are outlining all of those recommendations from the work group and that memorandum of understanding. And we're here to ask for your approval of that as the COC governance body.
Thank you, Emily. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. This is Meredith.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Randy.
So we'll do a roll call vote on this. Sarah,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Ben for Parker,
Aye.
Randy,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
and Jim.
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Our work here was quick, but there was a lot of staff time involved. So thank you, Brian and Emily, both for all of the work on this. You made our committee job a lot easier for sure.
Emily carried all the weight on this one.
You can tell she's got her weightlifting lips.
I was just a cheerleader on this one. So.
Good. That's important too. And back to Emily for our 7th agenda item for data and coordinated entry updates. Also some exciting news.
So I want to talk through the system performance measures report really briefly that you all had in your meeting materials, but I also will sort of lean on Brian and anyone else. I was not here at the May meeting, but I understand at that meeting you all talked some about that system performance measure reporting that's required by HUD annually. So the staff report that you have is just an overview of what those measures specifically are and what our data were, what we reported on this year. There are 6 metrics that are components of the system performance measures. Again, this is annual reporting to HUD. It's a requirement for every continuum of care. And those 6 metrics are length of time homeless, returns to homelessness after people have exited, number of people who are homeless, increases in income and employment, number of people who are homeless for the first time, and exits to permanent housing. And system performance measures are always looking a year, are retrospective to the prior federal fiscal year, so October through September. And so the data that you have in that staff report are the 2020 data, but I also included the 2019 data. Some of those really big swings that you'll see in the numbers are really just related to data cleanup. So looking at folks who had actually exited a program on the ground, but we didn't have that exit reflected in HMIS. So correcting some of that information. And also keep in mind that system performance measures do have to be pulled out of HMIS. And so they're really dependent on the quantity and quality of data that we have in HMIS. I know you've heard me beat this drum 1,000 times. So as we continue to get better HMIS participation, both in terms of the number of agencies and programs that are entering data, but also in terms of improving our data quality, then those performance measures really become very meaningful to us, can really be a great source of information that can inform our strategies around ending homelessness. So I am going to stop there on system performance measures, but I wonder if y'all have any questions or if there was anything in particular you wanted to know about that.
Emily, do you want to elaborate just on just your work over the last several months to get more agencies to participate in HMIS and just kind of just all the work that's gone into that? Because you've carried water on that one for sure, and I think we've made a tremendous amount of progress on this thanks to your efforts. So.
Yeah, I actually don't think that I have an update on that since the last time that I gave this group an update in terms of new agencies participating, but we do in the past year. Salvation Army had previously been in HMIS and then had kind of a lull, but they have re-engaged in HMIS. We have Elida now entering data. We have Haywood Street entering data for their respite program. There is some federal work to get HUD-VASH data integrated into HMIS. That is a long process and is still in process, so that's not yet happening, but the intention is that that will be a quarterly export from their system that we can then import into HMIS. So it won't exactly be real-time data, but it will be a quarterly update. And then we're continuing to have some conversations with WNCAP and VIA for VIA's TCLI program. So overall, and we also have Sunrise in HMIS, both for their street outreach that's funded through ESG CV and for the work they're doing at the hotel right now. So we really have expanded HMIS coverage pretty meaningfully in the past year. And I do think, I'm a real believer in data, and I do think that our data are getting better all the time, and that can be really useful to us going forward. Okay. Coordinated entry. So two updates, one of which has a vote for you all. So I think you all will be familiar that our coordinated entry structure is that we run a parallel process for veterans and for civilians. And we have had in the past the veteran subcommittee that then became the veteran work group, and that group has done some sort of policy direction for veteran coordinated assessment meeting. And then our coordinated assessment meeting for civilians has functioned as both that kind of policy group and implementation group. We have just restructured that recently so that we're merging the policy aspect of that. So we'll have just one coordinated entry work group that oversees policy recommendations. And by that, I mean, we know that we need to shift away from the VI SPDAT, for example. We are looking at alternatives, other assessment tools. We are evaluating our prioritization matrix. So consolidating into a single coordinated entry work group means that we will have really consistent policy across our continuum of care, regardless of veteran or civilian coordinated entry. But we will continue to run those systems separately on the ground, but we'll have common practice across those systems. So that doesn't require any action from you all, just as an update. We are, again, continuing to work on alternatives to the VI SPDAT and looking at other assessment tools. And I anticipate that we'll have some recommendations for you in the next couple of months. We're certainly not unique in that. That's happening across the country right now. It's in our field nationwide. That is something that folks are really wrestling with. The other update that does require some action from you is that we have 3 agencies that are ready to join coordinated entry, which is really exciting. The idea of coordinated entry is that we're not kind of every man for himself, and it's not dependent on the person in crisis to find the right program, but that we are really pooling all of our interventions and pooling all of our clients and making those matches. And our ability to do that is really dependent on participation from agencies across the continuum of care. So we have Haywood Street, Salvation Army, and Sunrise that have all requested to join coordinated entry, which means that will be, currently that they are able to refer their clients to other agencies who can then refer those folks through coordinated entry. That this will just create a better, more comprehensive system, give us a better picture of all of the folks who are homeless in our community so that we're actually making more effective matches with housing interventions. So the staff report and resolution that you have is a vote on approving those 3 agencies to join the coordinated entry system.
Thanks, Emily. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Approve.
Thank you, Randy. Could I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. You're on mute, Brian.
We'll do a roll call vote. Sarah,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Randy,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
and Jen, if you're still here.
Aye.
Great, excellent. Thank y'all.
Thanks, everyone. Wow, we're speeding through our agenda this morning. So
Even
organized.
with the technical delay that we had, we are.
I know. I'm very focused on Meredith this last day, and we have our Homeward Bound executive director saying she's got things to do. We don't want to hang her up. So the next item on our agenda is around other funding updates. We'll hear from Brian. You can see on your agenda for folks at home, if you guys go on to the second page, so there's several different items that Brian will tackle.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that everybody in this group is probably already aware of, because the notice dropped several weeks ago now for the Emergency Solutions Grant. For 2022, those particular funds run on a calendar year schedule. This year, we have roughly the same amount of money that we've had in this particular funding pool in years past. It's always been right around $128,000 or so. And so this year's no different on the amount of money that's available. We sent the announcement out on the 7th of July. There's kind of 2 review phases that happen for this. We are required to conduct a local review and recommendation process that is then provided to the state, the ESG office under the umbrella of the Department of Health and Human Services. The local deadline for project applications for our local review is Friday, September the 10th. The state will provide a Smart Sheets link to agencies that are making application. The finance work group that reviews these project applications will meet sometime during the week of September 13th, and then we have to have everything submitted to the state by Friday, October 1st. I included some information in the meeting package, some links to previous announcements on this. So that process is underway. Before I move on to anything else, any questions about ESG funding for this year? Okay, so we do not know too much more about American Rescue Plan Act home funding. The 2 things that I think we have heard most recently is that we will not get guidelines for use of these dollars until late in September or even early October. And then our 4-county home consortium will be required to submit a plan for use of those funds by the end of the calendar year. We're getting almost $4.7 million in home funding that's targeted specifically to address homelessness and includes some additional activities, eligible activities that are typically not eligible under home funding. But this is 4 counties that are involved in our particular allocation of home dollars. So there's going to be lots of work, and I'm sure that it will be worthy of this committee's time and consideration and input for some recommendations. And Paul, do you want to speak anything about just what the consortium's approach will be on this, just since you're the liaison for that particular group?
Hey, thanks, Brian, and good morning, everybody. So yeah, as of right now, ditto everything that Brian said. We got the notice about this funding, I think in late April or early May. The last consortium meeting was in June. We let them know about this $4.7 million in funding. There's like a 5-pager on funding like this that helps talk about what exactly in general it's going to be used for. I think the next time we meet with the consortium is in September. We've already talked about lengthening that meeting to start pre-planning and planning for how to use these funds. Brian, I think you might have just said this, but you know, HUD is recommending we pre-plan now. There's a meeting on August 5th, like a couple meetings they're doing about this. So we're going to pre-plan around what we know, but I'm very hesitant to a certain extent because until we actually have regs, which is why we're excited to have this funding, but I don't want to get too excited that then people think we can use it for X, Y, and Z, and it ends up being A, B, and C. So it's out there. We're figuring it out. Y'all will be the first to know, or one of the first to know, hopefully, before we know or when we know, but more to come. Next consortium meeting technically, I think, is September 17th. And that's when we might have a bigger discussion about this, but I don't even think we'll have the regs then. So thanks, Brian. I hope that's a little helpful.
Yeah.
More to come.
Yeah. And so, Emily, refresh my memory, because I know that the supportive services activities are eligible activities under this allocation, but I can't remember the other additional eligible activity that was thrown into this. I'm having a momentary brain cramp here. So do you recall what it was?
So it is non-congregate shelter acquisition, rehab, supportive services, but I think we should all hold that very loosely until we have more regulations. I think that could mean just any number of activities. But the exciting part to me about this pot of money is that it is targeted to homeless activities, which is really unique for home funding.
Yeah.
And then quickly, if I can add, Emily, is there tenant-based rental assistance in that too, possibly?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so, but I know for us at the City of Asheville as the participating jurisdiction, technically these funds can be expended up until 2030. That said, I think that HUD, and based on the stuff we've read so far, really wants this funding to be strategic. Out of the gate, let's address the issues on the ground now. So we are certainly thinking, but not making any decisions, so please hear that the more targeted upfront these investments can be, the better. If it ends up being 47 grants at $100,000, I don't think that is what this money is supposed to be used for. Plus, capacity-wise, that would be tough on the city, but I think we can find some great projects for targeted upfront first couple years capital injection into the community. So more to come.
Thanks, Paul. We still do not have any word about the 2021 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Availability Competition. I did note earlier this week that HUD, the Special Needs Assistance Program Office, published the updated grant inventory worksheet, which lists all the grants in each continuum of care that are eligible for renewal. And everything looked accurate based on some of the change requests that were made to HUD, just shuffling some money around for different activities under each of the grants. So we're standing by. It really took everyone in the state by surprise that the Emergency Solutions Grant funding announcement was made prior to Continuum of Care. Traditionally, for years now, it's been exactly the other way around. But I think that there were lots of things to figure out in the HUD SNAP's office that were pretty unusual this year. And in a way, I think our colleagues at the state ESG office, since they had 2 infusions of emergency solutions grant funding related to COVID that were distributed in the latter half of 2020, they were more prepared to kind of ramp up. They have done a lot of adjustments in their processes. So I think they were just ready to go and maybe didn't want to wait on HUD. So, but it's a little unusual. We will see a slight, actually a pretty good increase in available Continuum of Care funding this year, but it is due primarily to the work of the folks over at the Housing Authority who worked really hard to get an increase in fair market rent payment standards. And so HUD, through Continuum of Care dollars, expands funding available to a community based on FMR. So the fact that we were granted an increase meant that we got a corresponding increase in available Continuum of Care money. So funding that will be allocated in our annual renewal demand this year will be a little over $1.7 million, up from just under 1.3 million in the 2019 competition. There wasn't a competition last year. Everyone was flat funded, plus a little bit of extra if they were doing rental or leasing activities. So, so stand by. I think everybody across the country is waiting for that announcement, which really, after they publish the grant inventory worksheet, that's the last step before they'll publish the announcement. So we, of course, you know, our Finance Review Committee, with Parker's imminent departure, you know, we had a really strong committee. Sarah came in as part of that committee when she joined this particular group, and her experience and background in reviewing project applications at the Western North Carolina Bridge Foundation has really been helpful. And of course, we've had Dr. Jim Hardy's participation. Eileen's been involved for a while, but we're going to need to figure out who's going to replace Parker. You know, Ben, since you're standing in and sort of look like the heir apparent, I wonder if you might be willing to just step into that role. You don't need to give us an answer today, but it'd be great if you would. But we do need to have that extra body involved in reviewing those.
Well, thank you, Brian. I will say that I probably will not be that person.
Okay.
I am actually leaving Pisgah Legal at the end of September. And so we are going to have to figure out who is going to serve as Parker's replacement.
Okay. All right.
And we'll get back to you. We're still discussing it.
Then let's you and I have a conversation first part of the week on next steps on that.
Thank you, Brian.
Are you at liberty to say what your next step is going to be?
Oddly enough, someone at my office said, "Ben, are you retiring?" And I thought to myself, how old do you think I am? No, I'm going to a firm here locally called Stone and Christie. And I wanted to stick around at Pisgah Legal long enough to help us get through any kind of surge that we have in eviction cases. So this is just becoming public this week or last week. But yeah, so the last day of September is my last day at Pisgah Legal.
Okay. Well, we're sorry to see you move on from that role. You have really done a lot of heavy lifting over there on a lot of different fronts, but congratulations to you.
Yeah, I'm not going far. You know, when I first started at Pisgah, we referred to Stone and Christie as Pisgah Legal East. So it's not the biggest jump that I could be making. So I'll still be around.
Well, we have customarily included folks outside this committee in the finance work group. I will confer with Eileen McMahon, our chair, on how to do that. Unless there are any objections from the group, I think there are certainly some people who have participated in the past we could bring back into the mix. Anybody have any ideas, comments, or suggestions related to that?
I don't have any ideas, but Brian, I had a question. Do we have any currently open spots other than Parker's space?
We do. Of course, this is Meredith's last day, and then there's one more. And so Meredith has chaired, our sort of ad hoc nominations, work group that we need to pull together. And so in Meredith's absence, as with her departure today, I'm happy to call a meeting of the remaining folks on that group and figure out how we need to proceed from there. But yes, we do have a couple of other vacancies. So
I wonder if that would be an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the finance committee too when we meet for membership discussion.
I think that would be good. I have approached the Apartment Association of Western North Carolina to see if they have somebody from that particular sector that would be willing to serve. I think it would be great to get them involved and to help build relationships between the private sector multifamily owner operator community. I think it would be just valuable to have them involved in this particular group. And we've not had really any ongoing representation from any business community. And I think since homelessness is a community problem that's going to require a community-wide solution, and housing is part of that solution, I think including someone who may be willing from the apartment association to join this group, I would certainly, that would be one of my recommendations. But Jen, I think you're right that just when we get that group together, let's flesh out the details of the finance committee, because those review processes are going to be here happening before we know it. So, any other questions, comments? The only other thing that I want to mention today is that today is as far as I know, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, or Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. Ben's the lawyer. Paul's connected higher up than I am, but so as far as I understand, today is the last day that these types of committees are allowed to meet remotely. So we will begin meeting in person. Again, right now we're still meeting on a bi-monthly schedule unless there's a particular need for us, just due to all the behind the scenes stuff that has to happen with these meetings. I know Eileen McMahon, our chair, has requested to get back to monthly meetings. We haven't heard back on that request yet. So our next meeting would be scheduled at the end of September, in person, barring any changes due to what's happening with the pandemic right now. We have met at the Housing Authority in their boardroom for a long time. Prior to his retirement, Sam Powers thought it might be good to look at other locations, and I've been kind of scouting around. And then just through sheer serendipity to earlier this week, when I had to check in with Randy on a couple of things. Randy is currently serving as in the Episcopal Church, it's known as the sexton, who is the person who keeps the grounds and the facilities looking sharp, making sure that the building stays in good shape. So he is working as the sexton at Grace Episcopal Church up on Merriman Avenue. And as we were talking through several things related to this committee, he mentioned that there is a great meeting space there. And I looked at it, and it's a splendid meeting space. It has plenty of room. It has plenty of parking. It's on the bus line. Bus stop is right there at the bottom of the hill, there in the driveway leading up to the church. They have audio-visual capacity there, and plenty of seating for the public to join us in person. Randy, is there anything you want to elaborate on, and then we can have some discussion around this? But
Yeah, most definitely, Brian. Thank you. Yes, guys. Like I said, I've been working at Grace Episcopal, taking care of things, being a sexton over there. Not just the grounds and stuff, but the actual committee in the church and the fundings, getting into that and stuff, finance and stuff, learning what it's all about and how it's done. But yeah, it's a great facility, a great place. It's the big red door, stone castle looking church up on the hill just before Ingalls on Merriman Avenue. Yes, like I said, it's got a lot of history, and it's even got an elevator, believe it or not. But yeah, a nice, cool hardwood floor, nice room for us all, and everything. So yes, I'd like to make a motion, about the situation if everybody would like to meet there.
Randy has made a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I would like to discuss in person. Obviously, I'm requesting that we look at the numbers because of the Delta variant before we commit to doing that.
Yeah, I do not know what is going to happen related to this. I mean, with the Delta variant numbers increasing, exponentially almost every day, we may be in a situation where we have to continue to meet remotely. I'd like to go ahead and have a meeting location identified, even if we're not able to access it. If we need to continue to meet remotely, I'm sure there'll be direction that comes down from, the public health officials and then from the city and county. And so I agree, Amy. I think it's a wait and see attitude. I'd like at least get a facility, locked in when we can resume. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll have to meet there, but I agree the situation may be such that we're going to have to continue to meet remotely. I think there was legislation that was passed last year that enabled for some period of time these types of public bodies to meet remotely. And Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the lawyer on this. I believe that authorization expires today, and that's why everybody's going back to public meetings. Did I get that right from the lawyerly perspective?
This lawyer is unfamiliar with that legislation.
Okay. Paul or Nikki, do you want to weigh in? Just I've seen some communications that sort of today's it, and maybe things are going to change. But any comments from you?
Yeah, and so I'll jump in quickly, Brian, and then Nikki, I haven't had a chance to update you, but Christina Harris and I did meet yesterday with boards and commissions, and just so everyone hears it, I'm sure you're aware, they're watching this closely every day. They've heard concerns about meeting in person, the rise of the Delta variant, the convenience of the virtual meetings, and how we're actually setting up virtual or in-person meetings if there's distancings or mask requirements. So we're anticipating hearing more direction, but Brian, you're right in the aspect of they're following the state direction, which means there's no kind of like you can't really do the virtual thing outside of a pandemic. Christina and I also did talk about just the kind of equitable part of being able to do a hybrid of more community input by having in person and virtual for the comfortability's sake of if you feel comfortable being in person, great. If you're comfortable virtual, great. And Christina and I both feel that's really equitable, as Nikki. So that's what we heard yesterday, more to come, but I think they're literally watching on a day-to-day basis.
So, Madam Chair, I might recommend that Randy amend his motion that we begin meeting at Grace Episcopal Church pending further guidance and direction from public officials about in-person meetings, something to that effect.
Agreed. Randy, do you feel comfortable amending your motion?
Oh, yes, amend.
Thank you. I still second.
Okay. So I want to make sure I got the statement of the motion. So it's basically, the motion is to begin meeting in person on the September 24th, I think is the next scheduled meeting, pending further guidance from public health officials and city and county government. Is that fairly stated?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll ask for a roll call vote. We do have motion in a second. Sarah?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
And Jen, I don't know if you're still with us.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you for the offer, Randy, and bringing up that concern, Amy. Now to the public comment part of our agenda. So I do want to make welcome if we have anyone on the phone or if anyone has submitted questions already.
Christina, I believe that's your cue.
Hi, everyone. So we do not, well, actually, we do have one speaker who has raised their hand, and I'm going to open that. So just hang on for just a second. It's taking a minute to load.
Thank you, Christina.
Speaker, you are ready to speak to the board. Hello, are you there? They are not saying anything, so I'm going to go ahead and end that session, but they do have the option to enter back in and try it again. So that's also an option.
Thank you, Christina. Let's give them a few minutes to try that since we've had our own technical difficulties this morning.
For sure.
And Christina, it's Paul here. We had this at AHAC, so we eventually, I believe, hoping that the caller heard us or the person that we told them about, they could email their comment in as well and we could share it later, just FYI.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, that's also an option that they can email and we can get that to you all for review. Let's see.
Thank you,
We're going
Paul.
to try this again. So they are trying to connect again, so I'm just going to open that up. So what I think is going to happen is that it's going to give us a transcript, and then we can provide that to you all a little bit later because the line isn't quite working.
Thank you, Christina.
No problem.
Just
Thank you
reiterate
all.
to her that the written comments will be distributed by the transcript to all the members of the meeting attached to the meeting minutes. We do have our call that is able to hear us. We will be able to not only review, but it will be included in these meeting minutes. I apologize for any difficulties you've encountered. All right, well, we will continue to adjourning the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for today. We've accomplished a lot.
We did. And thank you, Tara, for agreeing to stand in. Several changes pending here, so thanks for stepping in for today. And Meredith, again, we wish you all the best. Thank you for everything that you've done for Homeward Bound and for this community and for your your patience in many different aspects of working with the city through some complex situations. So just wanted to acknowledge that one more time.
Love you, Meredith.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Back at you, and keep up the great work.
Well, we do know where you live, so we can come get some consultation if needed.
Right, right.
All right. Anything else? Thank you so much. This concludes the meeting of the Asheville Buncombe Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. Our next meeting will be Friday, September 24th, 2021 at 9 a.m. Location to be determined, pending the state direction of either in-person, hybrid, or remote. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. God bless.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.